Hello, podcast listeners. It is Songs for the Struggling Artist, episode 52. We have a full playing card deck of podcasts now. And so that's cool. We can play 52 card pickup with podcasts. Today I have for you the second part in my series on Generation X. There are currently 4 on the blog. If you feel like reading them, if you're like, I just can't wait to read part 3 and 4, then after you listen to this, you can go to the website, which is artiststruggle.wordpress, and you can read them if you'd like. They are coming soon. I took a little pause in recording these, mostly because so I've given each of these parts a title that is from a hit song from kind of the youth of Generation X, in a way. So every entry has a song, and so I've had to learn all of these songs, and I wanted to figure those out before I started recording. So this one now has a song for it, and I'm also getting ahead on the subsequent 2. The next one is turning into a bit of a project because it's the next part 3 is called Islands in the Stream, for which I have had to learn Islands in the Stream, which I did not really know before, and it is an incredibly crazy song. Just like it never goes where you think it's going to go. I mean, when you've heard it your whole life, I think it's just in your blood. But if it's new to you, which it kind of was to me, it's baffling. So, and I have now got this kind of crazy project brewing for recording it because I felt like it was not a fun. Well, I mean, it's a fun song enough by myself, but it would be so much more fun with other people. So now I have to figure out some multi-tracking, crowdsourcing software that I can have other people join me in this crazy recording stuff. So that may be a little minute coming forth. So, if you can't wait, read it on the blog. artiststruggle.wordpress.com is the website. So, yeah. Meanwhile, you have part 2, which is We Belong, which is a Pat Benatar song, which I will sing for you at the end of this adventure. But meanwhile, here it is. Generation X, part 2, We Belong. Generation X has tended to resist being labeled, and we also tend to resent being identified with a group. We like to think of ourselves as individuals. I have a Gen X friend who finds the concept of a hive mind deeply troubling. It strikes him as dangerous conformity to ask the hive mind what it thinks. I get it. I identify as a non-conformist too. But I also grew up listening to a lot of Steve Martin records. And from an early age, I understood the irony of identifying as a non-conformist along with a group through this part of his routine. So Steve Martin. And now, let's repeat the non-conformist oath. I promise to be different. I promise to be different. I promise to be unique. I promise to be unique. I promise not to repeat things other people say. The audience laughs. Generation X has tended to view itself as an outsider, and our numbers do nothing to disabuse us of this. We were once outsiders as an aesthetic. See also The Outsiders, Bender and Allison in the Breakfast Club, Ducky and Pretty in Pink, Watts in Some Kind of Wonderful, and Fat Albert. Grunge and hip-hop were outsider genres when they began. But now, due to our numbers, we may be perpetual outsiders simply because we are always in the generational minority. It's a good thing we have practice at outsider status. But as much as I dig the individualist spirit of Gen X, I also see the value in thinking collectively. I think it's amazing the way the average of people's guesses on the number of jelly beans in a jar comes closer in accuracy of anyone's person's guess. I understand the way that every audience, despite being made up of individuals, has a different quality. If you're a performer, you've likely experienced how differently audiences can react to the same show. As groups, we have personalities, a sort of dominant theme, an average of the different flavors of jelly beans. One of the things I admire about the generations surrounding ours is that they seem much better at gathering together than we ever were. Boomers have, come on people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Millennials have, we are young, so we'll set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun. And y'all get together now and you smile on your brothers and set the world on fire. While Gen X is like, wake me up before you go. And if we have to, we will fight for our right to party. But everybody wants to rule the world, and also everyone is a fucking Napoleon. I dig the exuberance, the positivity and optimism of the millennials, and the revolutionary spirit of our boomer mothers and fathers, or big brothers and sisters, depending. But getting together is not something I've ever seen Gen X be particularly good at. Maybe that's one of the reasons there were no Gen Xers to be found at that Saturday night in a small town. Maybe we just don't do well in crowds. Or maybe we just don't have the numbers. Gen X is the smallest generation numbers-wise. In fact, after I posted part 1 of this generational exploration piece, several of my Gen X friends told me how outnumbered they are in their workplaces. One of them called Gen X an endangered species. I mean, we can get our endangered selves together at the Love Shack, but the car to take us there only sits about 20, even if it is as big as a whale. And maybe 20 is the most Gen Xers we can manage to find in any given place. Certainly in that small town I visited, if I'd have gone to the Love Shack with all the other Gen Xers in town, I'd have been headed to the Love Shack alone. So that's part 2. You got some extra bonus song bits in there. I had not necessarily planned on singing this to you when I started reading, but it seemed appropriate. So you get some extra songs in this episode of Songs for the Struggling Artist. It's also very funny to me that, when I started this podcast, I had no intention of singing any part of it. I just was like, oh, I'll read my blog. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just throw a song here at the end. And now I feel like it's sort of interweaving more and more the songs, the thoughts. So that's cool. And it's also, I mean, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but when I originally started the blog, the idea was to include songs. So it's just kind of come back around in this funny circular experience. Anyway, so this is We Belong, which was a song that Pat Benatar sang in my youth and that I loved at the time. But I don't think I ever really sang it before. And now I'm totally into it. I think it's really, it's kind of nice to hear it without the children's choir. So, yeah, anyway, so here's We Belong. Many times I've tried to tell you, many times I've cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. Don't wanna leave you really, I've invested too much time to give you up that easy. To the doubts that complicate your mind, we belong to the light, we belong to the thunder, we belong to the sound of the words we've both fallen under. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together. Maybe it's a sign just wouldn't know what to do with my strength anyway. Have we become a habit? Do we distort the facts? Now there's no looking forward. Now there's no turning back. When we say we belong to the light, we belong to the thunder. We belong to the sound of the words we both fallen under. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together. Close your eyes and try to sleep now. Close your eyes and try to dream. Do your best to free your mind and try and wash the palate clean. We can't begin to know it, how much we really care. I hear your voice inside me, I see your face everywhere. Still you say we belong to the light, we belong to the thunder. We belong to the sound of the words we both fallen under. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together.